Hi, it's Ev Gardner. I was thinking another good video I should do that I wanted to do, I'm going to do now is a conspiracy about gorillas not being real, and not just gorillas, but other apes, monkeys, like for that matter, like they might just be people wearing costumes. And this is one of the funnier sounding, I guess, conspiracy theories. And but no, I think that this one is true. So this is sort of this isn't exactly spoilers, but no, discovering this conspiracy is what led to me writing this book, Horror's Call, one of my more recent titles. So, and that book involves this conspiracy about a guy working at a zoo who begins to suspect that this is the case. So, yeah, so I'll start off that. First off, how do you know like gorillas are real? Like you would say, well, you could say, oh, F. Gardner, I could go down to the zoo, in the city I live in, or wherever I live, I could travel to the zoo and I could see gorillas myself. But here's the thing: when you go there, the gorillas. How many times you've been there, and all the gorillas are asleep? Like it's like every time you go there, they're all asleep, and when they're not, it's just like one, and the answer is like, the zookeeper is like, oh, I guess all the other gorillas must be sleeping. So it's always just one gorilla you see. How do you not know that's just a dude wearing a costume? You wouldn't know, because the only people, you're not allowed to touch the gorillas. You're not allowed to go inside the cages or whatever, the exhibits, to go play with them or try to feed them a banana, whatever. You're not allowed to do that. And they say, no, you can't go in there because they can be dangerous. They make it seem like, oh yeah, gorillas, they can like tear a human in half. Like they're so strong. Like they're stronger than, way stronger. It doesn't even compare. Immeasurably stronger than like any human. It would just tear you to, it could go, well, ape shit and just tear you to pieces. Like, that's the excuse they give about that. But I don't know. I don't think that's convincing to me, because like, there's just no proof they're real. Otherwise, what? You can go on a safari, but a safari that's just like for the super rich, and who knows if they're just actors or not. Like that doesn't make sense. Like, so you see pictures of like, whatever, some super billionaire, he went on a safari and he shot a gorilla and he's standing over it like this is his trophy and he's proud. How do you know that that's not just like a fake costume down there, or a guy pretending to be dead wearing a gorilla costume, and that this isn't all like some sort of Truman Show shit going on? It's not. How do you know it's real or not? Like, you would have no way of knowing. And when you see, yeah, so this safari thing doesn't make sense. That's not an answer, because unless you're a billionaire and can go on a safari and hunt gorillas, that doesn't make sense. And yeah, otherwise you're left with being able to go to the zoo. When you go to the zoo, you can't play with the gorillas or anything. It's just, you could just look at them. If you can even see them, it's always just the one gorilla there, and the rest are asleep. They're usually all asleep, and you can't even see them sleeping. They're like, oh yeah, they're off in the little, whatever, the gorilla bedroom, whatever they're called. Not bedroom, but you know what I mean. Like they're all napping. They're all in the nap room. Or they're sick. They're in the gorilla ER or whatever. They're all sick right now. You can't see any of them. So just believe us that they're real. It's not convincing to me either. It seems fake. And yeah, you see. Oh yeah, a lot of the time, even if you do see, you won't even see this, but you'll see like video footage if you turn on the National Geographic, and they have this so-called footage of all these gorillas and they're eating, and then like the banana just like plops out of their mouth. Why would that happen? It's like that would only happen if it's a costume, like if it's a mask and nothing's meant to go in there. And I've heard it argued that maybe they have like sort of like make the gorilla's mouths move, like it's, yeah, to make their mouths move, it's like they probably now with technology have like some sort of machine that can make it move and make it create the illusion that it's chewing or opening its mouth and growling, and they have a voice box like an animatronic, like you ever been to a haunted house that like they'll have animatronics kind of pop out of you? Sometimes haunted houses will have stuff like that where it's not just people in costumes but like little animatronics. So a lot of the gorillas might have something like that has a voice box that like an animatronic robot thing or whatever has, and a lot of them might actually be animatronics. I've heard that argued too. I don't know about if they're all just people wearing costume. I think the costume thing is easier than them all being animatronics, but maybe some of them are animatronics. Yeah, I've heard the same argument about koalas that or that, not that they're in costumes, no, they're too small for that, but they're people, or not, they're animatronics that for koala bears, that they're just, that koala bears don't exist, that you go to Australia, you want to see a koala at the zoo or whatever, that's just, you go to the little tree and you think it's a koala at the zoo and the tree, but it's really just an animatronic, like a robot, like a ride at Disney World or whatever. Animatronic or haunted house that has animatronics, or Disney World kind of thing. Yeah, so that, and so they have pieces in the mouths that are probably moving, and and a lot of the time, these National Geographic shows and like shows where they talk, other shows they talk about nature, they'll have, I don't even know why they would have this. They'll have a lot of the time like somebody will give a gorilla a cigarette or a cigar, and then they'll start smoking, and or drinking something out of a cup, and they always say, "Oh, it's because they're so intelligent." But I don't know. It's supposed to be an animal. But I don't think an animal would make that connection to be able, like, know what a cigarette is. That doesn't make sense to me. Their brains wouldn't work like that. And they'll even have like videos of like, oh look, it's a gorilla driving a golf cart, like, or a monkey driving a golf cart. So that's just silly. That doesn't make sense. Like, an animal wouldn't know how to operate machinery or vehicle. So yeah, gorillas, monkeys, whatever, other apes, like they're all probably, all of them. Not probably, they are. They're fake. They're just people wearing costumes, and the small ones, they're just kids wearing costumes. So I've heard that argued. Well, what about smaller ones? That only makes sense for a gorilla. Well, it's just a kid wearing a costume. It's just as possible. People come in all different sizes. You could just make a gorilla costume or a monkey costume, whatever, and other sizes. So yeah, I know people want to believe in like monkeys and gorillas and stuff because they think they're cool or they're cute, and yeah, I get that, but I don't think they're real. And why would they do this? Well, I think it's like so a religious kind of thing. Like, there's two perspectives I could think of. Like, so I'm a Buddhist. Most people are Christian, I guess, in the United States, or at least Abrahamic faith. So the argument for that would be like, oh, this is a deception to try to make it seem like evolution is real. And the Buddhist perspective, my best guess for that is that to make it think that, still that evolution happened, but for different reasons for why they would try to deceive us like that. So whereas in Abrahamic faiths, the argument would be like, oh, why would they fake evolution? To try to, the answers from the Abrahamic stance would be, oh, to try to hide that God made the earth, and like it started with just Adam and Eve, and you know, as opposed to evolution. So the Buddhist perspective, so in Buddhism, it's that this whole world, everything's unreal, that this is illusory, that everything is empty, and that you don't have a self. It has the idea of the non-self, and that this is all like kind of like the Matrix and doesn't really exist, and you need to realize it doesn't exist, and then you can snap out of it and achieve nirvana. So yeah, so it's like in Buddhism, it's like versus in Christianity or other Abrahamic faiths, it's like it having a beginning. I think in like with like, yeah, it would be like 6,000 or 7,000 approximately years ago within like Christianity. If you would say like, if you believe in creationism, they would argue that, well, no, the earth is just 6,000 years old or so. And it started with God making man, making Adam and Eve and everything. In Buddhism, it's that it never inherently had a beginning. When I first heard that, it was confusing to me. So, like, I'm a Buddhist, but when I first heard that, it confused me, like, because I heard about how Buddha, he was asked, like, by his followers, like, did the earth, like, when did this begin? This illusion, this fake existence of what we think is reality. When did this begin? And Buddha, after he achieved enlightenment, nirvana, he was like omniscient in the sense that he could think. If he concentrated on something, he could know the answer. So that's from my understanding of what that means. So omniscient, not necessarily in the way that it's always defined in the sense that it's everything, but everything in the sense that if he focused on it, thought about it, the Buddha's thinking about it, then he could think, oh yeah, no, I know the answer to that now. So Buddha, he said when he became enlightened, he tried thinking about, or seeking, when did this begin? This samsara, this like the Matrix, the term for that, this fake existence that we're all in, this fake reality. He tried to find the beginning, and he said he could not find a beginning, and that it's been always going on, or eternal. And when I first heard that confused me. I thought, wait, how could there not be a beginning? And eventually I realized what the answer to that, the explanation for that is. So it's like, if you have a dream or a nightmare, when did that begin? It doesn't really begin. You could say, yeah, it begins when you fall asleep, but it's like, if you're having a dream and your eyes are closed, you're in your bed, you're sleeping, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, when did this world begin? The world that you're dreaming of. It never had a beginning because it's not real. It never happened. So Buddhism teaches that everything you're seeing right now, what you're seeing right now on your, however you're watching this, your computer, laptop, iPhone, whatever, that this isn't real. I'm not real. Other people aren't real. You are not even real. That you do not have a self. There's no such thing as other people or yourself. That this is all empty. There's only emptiness. And then to exit samsara, which is like exiting the Matrix, then you get to nirvana, you realize that. Anyway, so I guess it would be the argument, I guess it's a lot more complicated. It took longer to explain the Buddhist explanation, but it's that, yes, whereas in Christianity or other Abrahamic faiths, it would be to hide God's design, and whereas in, Buddhism, it's to hide that this isn't happening, that there was no beginning, because this isn't, it's like saying, when did the dream begin? The question doesn't really apply. Yeah, again, you could say it began when you fell asleep, but I mean, I don't mean when did you start sleeping? I mean, the world in the dream, when did it start? It's not like evolution happened it's not like you fall asleep, and when you fall asleep, the Big Bang happens, and then evolution happens, and uh, it's it's a fake world. It's a dream. So Buddhism, it's like this is like a dream, or at least putting it into mere whatever human terms, just limited words to convey that. It doesn't even do that, because you would need to, the only way to do that would be to achieve nirvana, reach enlightenment, and then you'd realize. But it's that this inherently isn't going on, that this is all empty, that this isn't real. So yeah, there's two perspectives on that. One is God's design, that they're hiding that. That's what the Abrahamic position. And then the Buddhist position, I'm Buddhist, it would be that this is all basically fake. Reality is fake. Reality doesn't exist. So I, as a Buddhist, I do not believe in reality. I think this is all fake. At least this is conventionally fake. That is fundamentally, there's nirvana. That's fundamentally real. This is conventionally fake. This is like the Matrix, or it's not real. So that would be why they're faking it. And yeah, back to the original point, gorillas. Yeah, for why they're faking gorillas and or other apes, for that matter, monkeys, whatever. If you look at old pictures or videos, old video footage, like old National Geographic or whatever. If you look at old pictures or video footage of gorillas or any kind of monkey, they all look fake. Like, it looks like, like the original Planet of the Apes, which that's a great movie. I love that movie. It's a timeless cinematic masterpiece. However, it's dated in terms of like the special effects. Like how, if you look at an old episode, whatever, Star Trek, with William Shatner, and from like the 60s. This is a great show, even though I don't believe in outer space. That's how I've explained I'm a flat earther. I think that there's just the dome and there's just the earth. Anyway, yeah, so you could tell that if you look at an old Star Trek episode, you could tell like, oh, that's just a guy wearing a costume. Great show. I'm not saying it's not. I love Star Trek. Great show. But yeah, you could tell as time goes on, as technology goes on, we have better special effects and costume design, makeup, whatever, to make things look more convincing, more realistic. So, and yeah, Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes from, what is that, the 60s too, right? Yeah, however old that is, the original Planet of the Apes. You could look at the costumes for that, and yeah, it looks great movie, but you could tell that it's not actually real. So, and it looks like that. If you look at old photos and videos of gorillas and monkeys, whatever kind of ape, whatever, you could tell, yeah, like, it looks like that. It looks like Planet of the Apes. It doesn't look real. Like, the skin looks like plasticky or latex, whatever they, for masks, like Halloween mask and costumes, like, it doesn't look real. And even the hair doesn't look right. It looks like, you ever see like a Halloween mask that has hair, you could tell if it's fake hair or not, or like a bad wig. Like, it doesn't look real, but it's like, as technology got better, so like as time went on, the costumes that they're using for these fake gorillas got better too. And yeah, that blew my mind when I started realizing that, when I was looking over. I'm trying to look at this with an open mind, even though it like sounded totally silly at first, the idea of like gorillas being fake. I'm looking at the video footage, and it looks ridiculous. It doesn't that it's like the costumes got better and no one notices. Like, well, I guess because people wouldn't normally be looking for old video footage of gorillas at the zoo, and the only reason I guess anyone would ever do that was if they're doing what I'm doing, like trying to see if they're real or not. So I guess that's part of what they kind of count on, that people aren't going to look into it. But F. Gardner looks into everything, and that's why I'm letting you guys know that I looked into it, and yeah, no, it seems, I know, reality is really crazy. Yeah, people have no idea that just how crazy things are. I think I covered everything. I have a list of notes here. I didn't want to forget any of these things. Yeah, so it's to just deceive people. Just in a nutshell, that's what the vast majority of conspiracy theories, whatever, boil down to. I don't even really like using the word conspiracy theory, honestly, because if it's something you believe, you don't think it's a conspiracy theory. The term doesn't really make sense. Like, people have this reaction whenever they hear the term conspiracy theory to immediately think of like a crazy guy wearing a tinfoil hat, like a total lunatic. Like, it's just been so hammered into our brains that this is what a conspiracy theorist is like. They're all just mentally unhinged, like lunatics. But no, I'm telling you right now, I'm I.F. Gardner. Look, I'm of sound mind. I'm a rational guy. I'm a novelist of 13 horror novels. Like, I've written 13 books. Do I seem out of my mind? No, I'm a coherent, like, well-spoken individual, and yeah, I've written all these amazing books, and I have all these fans. Like, if I was like just some guy wearing a tinfoil hat that's just totally like dysfunctional, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't add up. It's like, well, here's this, you're looking at me, you're thinking, here's this articulate guy, he's written all these books, he's this esteemed novelist, and he's saying that gorillas aren't real. He doesn't seem crazy. Well, that's the thing. I'm not. That's nobody who looks into this. It's not that they're crazy. It's just that they've done the research, and I don't mean that in like a condescending, cocky, arrogant, whatever way. Meaning, oh, I have Gardner. I have all the answers, and you don't know. I don't mean it like that. If you think gorillas are real, fine. Hey, I respect what you believe, but if you look into it, you're probably going to come to the same conclusions I have. This wasn't a rabbit hole I expected to fall down. None of the rabbit holes I've fallen down were stuff I necessarily expected. I followed the evidence, and I went into it trying to look at it as clearly as possible. I tried to not be biased. I tried to have an open mind, and that's a very hard thing to do, is to have an open mind. Everybody's biased, whatever, in some sense or another, and that's hard to do. That's very challenging to look at things with an open mind, and I try to. That's one thing I try to do. I try to have an open mind, and just respect what people think, and I make my own conclusions. F. Gardner makes his own conclusions. You should too. Yeah, don't just. I mean, I was gonna say don't just believe something because people tell you, but I mean, I guess some people do that, just like blind faith or whatever. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I understand, like, you could say, yeah, faith is a good thing, but in this context, this isn't necessarily the same, because this is stuff that the evidence for gorillas, the so-called evidence, whatever, they posit that this is based on science and things you can observe yourself, but you cannot. You cannot go to the zoo and play with the gorillas. You cannot go on a safari and hunt, I don't even know if people hunt gorillas other than like poachers. Maybe it's just lions or tigers, whatever. Or you could still see the gorillas or whatever on safaris, I guess. But you can't do that unless you're a billionaire or whatever, and doing that on a safari. So that doesn't apply. The thing about you could only see them from the distance at the zoo, and only under these in this very controlled environment with the zookeeper or whatever. Not even the zookeeper, like the gorilla. I don't know what the term is. Whatever the specialist is for like the gorilla doctor or whoever's supervising, watching the keeper of the. I guess it would be a zookeeper. Anyway, whatever they're called. Unless you can apply to be a zookeeper, but even that I don't think so, because I don't think all zookeepers are allowed to just like go into cages whenever they want and play with the gorillas. They probably can't even find that out either. It's probably like you need to be like really high up in the Illuminati food chain, high up on the ladder, to be able to do that and be one of the actors, however that works. Yeah, so that wouldn't make sense to me either. That I don't think it's just an average zookeeper. So even if you're a zookeeper and you're watching this and you're like, oh, F. Gardner, I work at a zoo. I've seen whatever gorillas. Well, yeah, but you're not like going in the cages and playing with them and petting them and tickling them or whatever. And they would say, well, it's because they're dangerous. Well, it's my point is that you can't. That's not an argument then if you can't do that. So how do you know? And unless they're like sedated, but that wouldn't make sense. Like, because they're sleeping all the time and everything. That's not an excuse either. Like, or they're in the gorilla doctor's office. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, none of these. They're all really flimsy, goofy explanations for why we should think gorillas exist and are not just made up. Like they're. Well, I think you get the gist of it. I've looked into it, and every single thing I've looked at tells me that no, it's very clear. It's clear as day that gorillas are just people wearing costumes, and that they're not real. That this is just one of the silliest things we've been made to think is true. That they're real. That there's such a thing as a gorilla or monkey or whatever kind of ape, but they're just fictional. Or not even fictional, people wearing costumes. It's like you go to a haunted house and you think you saw Dracula, or you think you saw Frankenstein, or the Mummy, or Freddy Krueger, or Jason, whatever. It's just a guy in a costume. It's the same thing. You go to the zoo. It's like going to a haunted house and you think you see a monster. It's not real. Well, monsters technically are real, but that's a different video. That relates to, well, I'll get into that in another video. Anyway, I hope you guys like this. Yeah, I thought this would be cool to do, since the episode I did talking about Flat Earth was such a hit and everything. Okay, well, take care, everybody. Peace.